We're so excited to have you all here today. Just going to go over a quick few housekeeping things before we launch in. We do have ASL interpreters on the call today, so make sure to pin those folks to the screen if they're not already spotlit on your view, just so you can see those individuals. We're so grateful to them for providing interpretation today. This is day 2 in our Getting Started series from the Arts Alliance Illinois Help Desk. We have been really overwhelmed by how much interest and excitement there's been about meeting with fellow creatives, meeting with experts about this process of starting a creative business. And we're so excited that all of you are here today. And we really want to make this as interactive as possible. So we'd love if you could drop your name, where you live in the chat, your pronouns if you feel comfortable, and anything else you want to share about what's bringing you here today, questions you have. We have some incredible experts on the call today, and we want to really make sure that we bring your interests and your questions. So make sure to use that Q&A function next to the chat button to send panelists questions, stories, concerns, comments throughout our presentations today, and we'll have some time at the end for a more formal Q&A section. We wanted to just give you a quick overview of the plan for the day. We're going to go over a little bit about Arts Alliance Illinois and then turn it over to our 3 and actually 4 today incredible experts who are going to talk through some really important aspects of starting a creative business, from sort of an entrepreneurial mindset and business planning to marketing and making use of social media. And then again, we'll save some time at the end for y'all's questions. We, as Arts Alliance Illinois, are so thrilled to be hosting this series. As I said, this is day 2 in our series for creative business owners or the creative business curious. And we're doing another series that I'll share some more information about for folks interested in starting creative nonprofits at the end of this month. But what Arts Alliance Illinois does is, as a statewide advocacy group, bring together different aspects of the creative sector to build power through advocacy, through policy change, and advocating for more resources to make sure that no matter where in Illinois you live, folks in the arts and culture sector have what we need to thrive. We do a lot of different things at Arts Alliance Illinois. We, as I said, do advocacy and policy work, and that really important community organizing. We do research, so trying to understand what is the arts and culture community, in Chicago versus in Champaign versus, trends that are happening all across our state, to really make sure when we're pushing for policy change, we're rooted in data and in research. And we also provide a lot of direct support to artists and creatives, and that's where we come in as the help desk. We're really here to be your support in navigating public funding for the arts. So that means looking for government and other public funds and grants and programs, walking you through the process of that, because we know that can be confusing. And so we'll share in the chat in just a couple minutes the link to come be able to chat with one of our staff one-on-one at the help desk to really walk you through the process of applying for public funding. Our help desk is also putting on a lot of public programs, just like this one, about starting a creative business or nonprofit. In June and July, we'll have some more experts coming in to talk about doing business, and then later in the year, sustaining and expanding and adapting as your creative venture and pursuit continues. We also have some exciting standalone workshops. Earlier last month in April, we did a workshop on sort of lending and loans for creatives. So we really encourage you to stay tuned and follow us on social media as well as in our newsletter for upcoming programs just like this one. But the reason you all are here today is to talk through some of the key concerns, key resources, key questions about starting a creative business. And that's why we've brought together these incredible experts to really speak from both their personal experiences and their expertise about how to really make this work. So I'm really thrilled to pass over to our first presenter for today, Ashley, and I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen and pass you the virtual microphone.
I'm muted. Here I am now. Hello, everyone. My name's Ashley Burnett. I am a women's business and leadership coach, a women's circle facilitator. I was a professional dancer for many, many years. I am a new author of Your Spacious and Seasonal Year. And I just moved from the San Francisco Bay Area. I was in San Francisco proper for 10 years and 8.5 in Petaluma, California. Just re-migrated back to Illinois, to Quincy, Illinois, my hometown, after 25 years away from this place. And I'm just excited to be back. I'm excited to have this time with you. And, you know, it was really cool to be asked to present at this because as a women's business and leadership coach, I've been in this sphere for about 13 years as a coach. But before that, I was dancing professionally in Chicago and San Francisco and LA and elsewhere. I majored in dance at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. And this creative expression has been in my blood line forever. My mother was my dance teacher. My father was my theater director. I was the president of my high school choir. And like I said, I majored in dance in college, and this has just been my world. And so it wasn't a surprise when I ended up focusing as I got into the coaching career, which originally I had been going to school to become a health and wellness coach, but about 9 months into that journey, I was being asked by folks, mostly creatives, on how to build their businesses. And so I had to really listen to that and go, okay, there's something here. I think people are wanting me for something a little more specific. And so I ended up creating my business coaching career, again, about 10 years ago or 12 years ago. And I work primarily with artists, dancers, singer-songwriters, yoga teachers, and different holistic practitioners. So I am someone who loves working with creatives. And today, my focus there was a focus around, you know, how do you stand out in business, and what, you know, how do you kind of get into that entrepreneurial mindset? And from a very, very early time in my coaching career, I really understood that I can't do this the way that other people think that I should be doing it. I'm going to need to do this and put myself out there in a way that feels super unique to me. And so one of the things that I teach my coaching clients is how to, what I like to call, how to uncover and unleash your unique, uninhibited brilliance. Lots of views. You know, this is about, from an early standpoint in your career as a business owner, really owning your brilliance, your secret sauce, what makes you you, because the truth is that no one else has the gifts that you have to bring to the world in the exact way that you have to bring them, right? And so when I think about entrepreneurial mindset, I think about really owning and claiming the unique parts of yourself that make you you. And so I want to take you through a process today to help you become more seen and to stand out, and also to help you get into that entrepreneurial mindset. Because the truth is that, you know, I believe in order to become really magnetic, someone that wants to invest in your services, and that, you know, as an artist, as a creative, or any kind of business owner, that we have to embrace our unique combination of gifts, passions, talents, challenges, life experiences, and weave that into our brand and weave that into our mission-driven work. So this is really about accepting the wholeness of who we are, everything that makes us up on a foundational level, including some of the challenges and shadow sides of ourselves, and integrating those into our offerings and our creative businesses. So the first step of this process is around uncovering your unique, uninhibited brilliance. And so this is about uncovering your uniqueness, your passions, your hobbies, your loves, your joys. So if you're a dancer, a dance artist, or a visual artist, that is one piece, but what's your signature style? What's going to come in to feed that signature style, right? It's these pieces about yourself, right? The passions, the hobbies, the loves, the joys, the challenges, the hardships, everything that makes you who you are, your strengths, your talents, your gifts, right? So the first piece that I have around this is just to have you jot down right now, what brings you joy? What brings you joy? And if you feel inspired to type this into the chat as well, you can do this. But feel free to just write down either in your notebook or on your computer, what brings you joy? What makes you feel most alive? What makes you feel most fully self-expressed? So what brings you joy? What makes you feel most alive, and what makes you feel most fully self-expressed? And for this exercise, I really invite you to write down stream of conscious style. And I do encourage you, if it makes sense and you have it nearby, if you have an old school notebook or journal or something like this, to write it down in there, because we start to access different neurology in our brain when we're actually writing down things and we're scribing. So that's the first piece. And then I would invite you to write down, what are your unique strengths, talents, gifts, AKA your superpowers? What are your unique strengths, talents, gifts, and what you might call your superpowers? And, you know, again, if you're a dance artist, of course, you're strong in that area. But what are some of the other pieces that make you who you are? Are you a born leader? Are you good at listening? So things like that. And then writing down some of your accomplishments and some of your challenges. What have you overcome in your life? And also, what have you accomplished in your life that you're most proud of? And writing some of those pieces down. And also, when it comes to our story, and this is what I love about this exercise, is that this is going to support you in so many different areas around sharing your story, number one, around getting yourself into that entrepreneurial mindset, because you are choosing to look at your strengths, look at what you've overcome, right? Bring your interests and talents together into a cohesive flow, right? And that helps you to get into an entrepreneurial mindset and also stand out. And one of the things I love to do with my clients is, because most of my clients are what I would say, multi-passionate entrepreneurs. I'm sure some of you can relate with that, right? You might be a dance artist, but you also might be a yoga teacher, right? So you might have different strengths that are coming together. How do we create cohesion around this? This is something that I'm really interested in and passionate about working with my clients around. So just taking a minute to wrap that up. And I would love if y'all are willing to type into the chat, even the panelists here, if you're willing, just what brings you joy? What brings you joy? And yeah, strengths. I'm good at multidisciplinarian. I make art. I also know about the administration part, right? So there's multiple strengths that are coming in, and there's ways that we can present our businesses or create businesses that can embody or encompass all of those strengths, right? Advocating for others brings me joy. Beautiful. What else? Joys, accomplishing goals, helping others succeed, coordinating life events. Yeah, and I think sometimes it can feel like, oh, wow, these are all over the place. But again, working with a coach or doing some of these exercises that we're doing right now can help us to see the through line. Like, what is the through line of some of our passions, so that when we are creating our brand and we're creating this business, that it can be something that really feels like a creative, unique expression of ourselves, right? And when we're making art, when we're making business, we're making art. We're creating something out of nothing, right? We are making art. And so how do we really bring the artistic process into even the business process, right? Joy, a well-written phrase, a perfectly sung note, opening night, hearing my clients accepted a dream job offer. Love that, Chloe. Beautiful. Taking risks for good, teaching others to experience the healing properties of clay. Oh my, that just, I love that. In fact, I have to share a quick piece. I just moved, like I said, moved back here, and I don't know if any of you have been into like kind of the Quincy rural area, but there's a park called Siloam Springs, and it is just like infused with clay, and there are springs. And I was just walking with my 4-year-old recently in the clay, and we were just playing and putting out our arms, and yeah, I love it. That brought me joy for sure. Helping students create art. I'm inspired by people who have overcome their wounds and traumas to help others. Beautiful. Thanks for sharing all of that. So these are pieces that you can continue, prompts that you can continue to work with in that first step. The second step, oh, and one more piece for you to just take with you is, where are you from originally? Where have you lived? And where do you currently reside? And how has that shaped who you are today, right? And so I told my story in the sense that, yeah, I majored in dance in college, moved to Chicago, danced professionally there for a few years, moved to San Francisco, did not think I was going to stay there very long. Ended up moving to Petaluma, California 10 years later, an hour north, led retreats on this incredible property for 8.5 years, and then had a huge shift of heart and felt called to come back to my hometown and offer this body of work here, support my dad who has Parkinson's, and be closer to family and raise my kiddo here. So, you know, that's going to shape your whole story, right? And so thinking about those pieces. So the second step is to identify where are you dimming your light? Where are you might be holding yourself back, holding some of your uniqueness back? Where might that be happening? What's the why behind those actions, so that we can really own and claim our unique brilliance, right? And so that's a question that I have for you is, where right now, as you're creating this business, do you feel like you might be holding your back for fear of being judged, or for whatever reason? Where do you feel like you might be holding yourself back? Or what are some of the pieces that you feel like you're leaving out of the equation as you are creating this brand and this business to present into the world? So thinking about that, and like why do you feel like some of that dimming or censoring might be taking place? And what would you like instead? What would you like instead? I didn't mention this, but I'm also a trained earth-based ritualist. So a lot of the circle and retreat work that I do, I weave ritual into that work. And a lot of ritual that we do is working with the elements, working with earth, water, air, fire, to help to kind of cleanse, move through, burn away some of these old thought processes, right? So I, would ask you around some of this, what are some of the old stories that you might be ready to let go of? And again, what would you like instead? And is there a ritual or a practice or something that you could do to kind of commemorate that so that you can let that go and transform that old thought process into what it is that you really want? So I'll just give you a moment to kind of marinate on that. And really it's looking at where am I dimming, where am I censoring, what would I like instead, and what am I ready to let go of so that I can get out there and do the work that I'm really being called to do in the most authentic way possible. Because, as an artist, you're creating your own revolution. You're creating your own revolutionary representation of you and your business. I'm looking at some of this here in the chat. I've developed fear around traditional marketing practices. I'm so caught up in whether I make ads or posts that are effective. I cause my own progress paralysis. Yeah, Chloe, I can really resonate with you. And when it comes to marketing specifically, I think we have to do it in a way that's going to feel most authentic in an alignment to us, right? As creatives, and it just who you are, what season of your life you're in, all of those kind of pieces come into play here. And so I really encourage you to ask yourself in terms of marketing, and that's a whole other, but this is a whole other segment, right? That I teach in my programs, all of that kind of thing. But uncovering the marketing avenues that you feel like are gonna, again, really reflect who you are. So do we need to go into Facebook ads and that sort of thing? No, I very rarely am using that to market my business. It doesn't mean that I've never used those strategies, but I really encourage you to kind of dive in and ask yourself what's going to feel most in alignment for you. And when it comes to marketing, what's going to light yourself up the most? Is it coming on and talking live about something that you have on social media that is just coming from the heart in real time and doing that? For some of you, that's an absolute hell no. That's not going to be the path, right? And so it just depends on what, for some of you, it's going to be grassroots style, old school marketing. That's one of my favorite ways, like having community tea dates with people that, can feel like I'm really building a relationship and a connection in real time with folks. Okay, so I'm gonna move on for time's sake here, because I know I have just a few more minutes. But the third step of this is to then begin to explore ways that you can weave these unique parts of yourself into your business and passion projects so that you can feel really aligned in your branding, in your marketing, in your content creation efforts, to really be more authentic in the representation of your work, right? And so just asking yourself, looking back at that first question I asked you around what brings you joy, what makes you feel most fully self-expressed, how can you weave, if you have a highlighter nearby, go ahead and highlight the pieces, the little sound bites that are coming out and really resonating with you, so that you can look at ways to start to authentically weave these hobbies, gifts, passions, talents, challenges, all the things into your work. So just ask yourself, how can I infuse this in to my work in a greater way? And you might not know the answer right now, and that's okay. And I'm happy to connect with you further later. How can you begin to weave this into your work? How can you begin to weave this into your story? And the other thing is, I want to say, this is a quote from Simon Sinek in his book, Start With Why. He talks about people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. They buy why you have gone into this work, your passion, your mission, right? And also, to come back to the entrepreneurial mindset piece, this is another thing to think about. Business is not for the faint of heart. Business takes risk, it takes courage, it takes getting support. It takes getting yourself into the lane of support that you want to create. So the fact that you're here today is great news. But remembering your why and remembering your mission is what's going to help drive you forward when the going gets tough, because it will. And it's part of the cyclical process of entrepreneurship, right? And so asking yourself, okay, well, how can I even speak and share my story in a greater way to my community? Because that's what's going to inspire them to come to a show, to come to, buy your art, to, get infused into your world of what you're creating. Think about how you can work and share your story in a deeper way. And then the last piece is just, and I already started to ask this, what are your next right aligned actions in terms of weaving this, what I call your unique uninhibited brilliance into your offerings? So I want you to look at, again, some of those pieces that you highlighted and ask yourself, what's one quick action that I can take, quick leaping action that I can take to infuse these into your offering? So I'll give you an example. As a coach, I was a dance artist. I had kind of retired from dancing professionally, became a coach. I was also a massage therapist and phasing out of that career. And I had stopped dancing, and it was like cutting off my lifeline. That's what it felt like. And I started to get curious, how can I begin to infuse this piece of me that is so much of who I am? Grew up in a dance studio, majored in dance in college, danced professionally for 10 years. How can I infuse this into my work? And so now at all of my retreats, there's a whole dance practice that I teach at the retreats to get folks in their bodies before we start to dive into the actual work of creating a business or learning marketing techniques, right? So that they're getting, their nervous systems recalibrated, they're getting embodied, and then they can create from that place, right? And so I wove this old talent of mine, like dancing and singing also is another thing. And I weave those into my retreats as well. And so how can you weave some of these hobbies or talents of yours that maybe you're getting left by the wayside into your work? So that is, and what's one next right action that you could potentially do to incorporate that? So it could be sharing a part of you on Instagram Live to your community that people didn't even know you could do, right? If you're a dance artist and you also sing, maybe you're going to start incorporating song into your productions, right? I don't know, but things like that. So, okay. I am so excited and grateful to have had this time. I am seeing that I need to transition, but thank you so much for being here and being willing to learn new things. Super honored for Arts Alliance for having me, and also just would invite you to write down in your journal what your greatest takeaway is from this talk, and to do that for each of the remaining presentations. And I believe that they're going to let you know how you can stay in touch with us. But if you want to learn more about my work, you can go to ashleyburnett.co and learn more. Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
so much, Ashley. That was wonderful. Yeah, we'll certainly be sharing out contact information and all that good stuff. We're going to hand it over to Robin next, but just a quick reminder, folks, please do use that Q&A. I love seeing your stories and reactions in the chat. Our panelists definitely want to hear questions from you, so don't be afraid to put questions in the chat throughout. Robin, I will pass the microphone to you.
Hello, everyone. I am just going to jump right to my presentation. If you just see it covers, oops. Oh, I changed it while we were having a conversation. Don't look at this point. Okay, here. I added a few slides related to the conversation. I love that, Ashley. And wait till you see everyone how I cleverly echo your points in another way, or sometimes the same way. Anyway, just a bit about me. For most of my career, I was a journalist, a writer and editor, and the editor of Art News magazine for 16 years. Here you can see me interviewing Robert Rauschenberg, and I'm on assignment for the for Art Forum at the Guggenheim Bilbao in Spain. And in the spectrum of news writing, I was always more on the news side of things. So even when I was writing for Art Forum, which is a super theoretical magazine, I wrote with the same clear and accessible language I used for the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and many other places. Anyway, fast forward 10 years ago, they sell Art News, and I look around at my options in journalism, and I decide to leave journalism and to focus on my Instagram and to start a business training digital natives to use these new digital platforms. So, that was challenging. It was 2014, and I was known as a person from the world of print, and I had to retell my story through images and social media, right? So I get the new profile photo with the big phone, Google Glass. It was cool then for 4 minutes. Here I am at Twitter, and here I go where no Instagrammer had gone before, because I was the first featured Instagrammer of the Frick. Anyway, fast forward, it turned out I was right, and Instagram's a major tool in marketing, intellectual conversation, our social life, social justice, and now I am best known as Instagrammer, our symbolist up there with some 50-something thousand followers, and I am posting my travels of the New York art scene and beyond, and also marketing my professional training workshops, which is just like the one we're doing here. So, oops, wrong class. No, just kidding. Why is this here? Here we have this broccoli and tofu, and they have so many vitamins and so much protein, right? But if we put it out on the table, we might find that people don't eat it. And I like to compare this to the way we as artists and art professionals, we have so much to say, right? So much about our story, everything we were just listening to and beyond, right? But if we put it out like this, people won't consume it. So I like to think about how we might serve it, right? So on the left, we have the Spanish style tapas, kind of small plates with a few delicious ingredients. And on the right, we have the deep dish stew, which I'm calling more like the website and the small plates or the social media. But enough with the food, Robin. So the kind of overall strategy is very similar to what Ashley is just saying, but kind of said in slightly different words, right? So my 3-step strategies, we're going to define the stories, which is of yourself, again, those unique qualities that we just heard, and also of what you're making, because those two are kind of characters in your story, whether it's your show, your art piece, your theater piece, your healing practice, and so on. Then we're going to craft them, right? We're going to cook the broccoli and so on in a way audiences will want to consume. And then we want to share them with people who will then take an action. And this becomes kind of challenging in the social. I know I was just showing off my 50,000 followers, but sometimes we can take the followers and the likes a little bit too seriously when we're looking for the long-term results, right? The studio visit, somebody writing about your work, paying you to make your work in a residency, commissioning you for a theater piece, and so on. These are all the kind of different results. So our main concept here, which we just heard from Ashley, is sharing, not selling. People don't want to be sold to, and this becomes a challenge in the world of visual art sorry, we're having our New York style siren. There's one in every meeting. A challenge in visual art because we become so forced to focus on the, not forced, but there's a pressure to focus on the theory, right? On the meaning, to have a deep meaning for the whole thing. And sometimes we forget to explain what it is, right? So the concept is we're going to have this one idea about ourselves that we just, heard about and kind of did in the other workshop. This might be the spoken word, right? The famous elevator pitch, where you meet someone and you have to say quickly who you are, or maybe a longer lecture. We've got the Instagram bio. We have the website bio, Instagram bio of 150 characters, website bio 150 words, the email, and across all our visual elements and design. Now, for time, I'm just focusing story ingredients. Why is this food still here? I'm just focusing on a few factors here on defining your message. Step one, who are you? All right. Ashley said this very beautifully earlier. Where are you from? Where do you live? Again, as it impacts your creative practice. We just heard that, right? It might be your cultural identity, your gender identity. So I'm calling these your personal identity signifiers, right? And again, how much you want to put of this out there is up to you. There's a wide diversity of practice on social media where people put their kids and their dogs and their teams, and some people don't, right? We kind of heard exactly from Ashley this idea of incorporating your external creative practices, right, into your story, which is my advice as well, right? It's because again, we're not selling objects, we're selling a point of view and a larger creativity. Then we get to the professional identity, right? In this case, what is it? Again, big challenge in the visual art world. A lot of times we read the meaning and we don't know literally what it is. Maybe you're making furniture, maybe you're selling frames, theater, we heard other theater pieces and so on. And then we get to the value. And this is another challenging part of marketing, right? Because yes, we want to tell our story, but ultimately we have to figure out why they should care, right? That's why we want to also be picking from this menu selectively. So what might the value be? Again, if you're doing visual art, theater, furniture, clothing, whatever it is, it might be beauty. It might be helping us challenge our perceptions of beauty. It might make us more comfortable, cause us to change our perspective, right? And if we're buying it for our home or our body, I also called it an identity signifier, right? When people buy your art for their home, where they're going to live and look at it all the time, it's not just about you, it's about them having this work by you. And as I like to say, the art does not make itself. How do you do it? This is the process part. We civilians love the process behind the scenes. You can use this, right? We're kind of using, again, using the creative journey to reflect back to the personal artistic journey, right? So we have our tools and materials. Now, imagine that you're weaving. Say you say, okay, I'm weaving on a loom. The minute you say, I'm weaving with alpaca, you've situated your work in the Andes, in a cultural tradition, in a geographic place, right? In it might be a utilitarian or symbolic tradition. So the minute you add these details, these important details, you're saving yourself a lot of work later when you have to explain what it all means, if that makes sense. Now, if you're doing collage, if you're doing mixed media, it depends where you got the objects, right? Say you have dolls. Are they from grandma's attic or did you find them in the trash type of thing, right? And you can kind of break it down more and more and see again how the meaning comes through, how you decided to pick these specific objects and put them in your art piece. Now, the other thing that happens in all of these mixed media, assemblage, collage, and so on, is that you're transforming the objects, right? You're kind of, people like to say they're giving them new life. A lot of times we hear that through your creativity. And that's the alchemy, right? All of these may be probably humble materials through the transformational power of your creativity, become a new thing. And that's what we're trying. We don't want to have to say all that, right? We want to use the specific language to explain that. Audience experience. This is one of the most important things that people forget to put in all of their content, writing, Instagram, whatever. Why should they care about you? Because your creative project has an impact on them. What does it look like? What does it make us feel? What does it make us think, change our day, our lives, and so on, right? And we heard again about a kind of, I think I saw in the chat about a healing therapy, right? This example of using a certain practice to change lives, right? To make a difference in the larger world. I just threw this slide in. I had cut it out because we saw about ceramics in the other one as an example of how does art make people feel. So here we have this, this is a screenshot on the left from the Delaware Art Museum. Got the hand with the mugs. Did you know that working with clay can relieve stress and boost your mood? The tactile nature of clay is very grounding. Now, imagine drinking a warm beverage out of a cup you've formed with your own hands. Learn how in our cozy winter mug workshop. I just thought that was so fun. And again, the calls to action, right? When we're in marketing, not see my show 2 more weeks, but why should people see our show? Where we're trying to interest them, to inspire them, right? To take one of these actions. And in the certainly in visual art, and from what we've seen here, again, we're talking about a long game where people aren't necessarily going to see your Instagram and buy a painting or offer you a show, but maybe they'll check out your website or follow your mailing list type of thing. Why and why you? All right, this goes right back. We could not have planned it better. Thank you, Ashley. Now, a lot of times in the why, this is what I'm talking about in the visual art world, that we get stuck in this kind of having to explain, the kind of political and social and ecological and economic and so on meaning of your exploration, your investigation, your research, and so on. And again, most of you, unless you're making, digital art, are making objects, right? Or theater pieces or whatever that exist for an audience, right? And so that's your meaning and intention. And why you is what we just heard from Ashley, right? From all of the talking points above that we just heard, which are kind of a menu, right? You'll find the unique combination of ingredients that conveys your distinctive qualities, right? So just briefly, cooking up your content, cooking Robin website, very briefly, be a character in your story. When we're telling our stories, every picture tells a story. Just made that up, right? The more the picture says, the less you got to write. And this is true on the website and the Instagram and so on. And again, there's people sometimes can be uncomfortable of showing themselves, but again, showing yourself doing the thing can be better. And I wrote interweave personal and professional philosophy, point of view, creative journey. Again, I'm sorry, this is kind of so fast, but just to give you a taste of it. And then again, here we have a website for an architecture business of these 2 colleagues, right? 2 sides of the picture united in detail, and it's going to weave back and forth where they're from, San Francisco, Northern Iranian expat, and where that, how they met and what's their mutual philosophy, right? So we're getting, again, this kind of weaving of in and out of how your story affects the audience or might be interesting, right? Social media is going to fulfill this promise. So just on LinkedIn, I do recommend you be on LinkedIn. I wrote search and be found. Now, I did want to draw your attention to this profile of Natalie Jeremijenko in case you didn't notice this beetle on her face. So I am also calling the beetle an identity signifier, right? It stands in for the idea of using your profile, using every cover photo to convey that identity, that story in one way or another. Instagram feed illustrates the bio. Now, what you're going to see in a lot of the more successful Instagram feeds is this kind of, again, a kind of like a visual diary. You're going to go in the studio, you're going to go in the field, you're going to see their work, you're going to see other people's work, you're going to see their process, you're going to see programs, and it doesn't look like advertising. And this is the paradigm shift, right? This idea of the space between editorial and marketing that we're working in here. Connect your story to your work. Again, just very briefly, Micheline Thomas in these posts, again, it's not like a picture you would see in a magazine, right? It's the artist observing her own work. And every time she posts something, she just gives you a little way in, a little detail, right? That not the whole cut and paste of the press release, but a little detail that helps you see it better. So on the right, we have a pivotal moment from The Color Purple, from her series, The Color Purple, a pivotal moment in the novel about watered down in the movie, but life-changing for me when I was a teenager, right? That makes you look right back at the work. Now, I'm not saying you need to get that personal, it's up to you. But again, we're trying to not tell people how to look, but give them ways to look. Craft stories around each creative project. So here we have Fabiana Rodriguez. Call to action, right? Reasons to buy. Now, I just want to point out in this lovely profile, all of the selling points that are super subtly in here, right? The website goes to the shop. We have this call to action here, and we have an art for sale here in the Instagram highlight. But the overall vibe of this profile, with all of its language and again, a kind of more position in the world of philosophy, artist and activist and president of Culture Strike. My work is about liberation, racial justice, sexual freedom, and climate justice, right? And then we're telling a story. And what I thought was very clever, if you look at how each piece is being sold, on the left, she's giving you a video, a reel, dive into the beauty of stringers. I guide you through the creation of a vibrant flower collage. All right. So she's, kind of giving a service. I'm not saying you all have to do it, but we just heard about that again from Ashley. And then she's selling them right down there. So again, it's not coming across as buy this, it comes across as I'm sharing this. And I also love this photo, which in addition to giving scale, you feel like you're in her space and you see the plants that influenced the picture. Look how much information is in these photos, right? And they're all about telling a larger story. And finally, that's so I used to have be authentic. I'm going to tell you the truth related to what Ashley said. And then in the last couple of years, I switched it. And I totally agree you should be authentic, but I also wrote be your best self. Because in social media, we really want to think about that more and more, right? If you're in doubt, just don't do it, right? And I wrote, use your emotional intelligence too when you're kind of pitching yourself in the world, and see what people are interested in. Always kind of give them a chance to ask questions. And finally, like I said, play the long game. The art world is a place where we move around for decades with kindred spirits, right? We're trying to build long-term connections of people we might collaborate with, exhibit we might write about them, they might write about us, right? We're moving around like that. So in addition to kind of selling, we're always thinking about this idea of finding the kindred spirits, whoever they are, so that you can all move forward with your career together. And with that, here we have, thank you, with my website, robinsempelis.com, and my Instagram. The end.
Thank you so much, Robin. There was so much incredible stuff in that, and just so many juicy pieces for people to follow up on. I see we already have one question in the Q&A, but again, just want to keep encouraging folks to put questions in the Q&A so we can get to those at the end. I will pass it along to our two Aimees and to take us home.
Thank you so much, Jess, and thank you, Robin. That was great. A lot of great conversation going on in the chat. I'm going to share my screen and get right to our presentation. Aimee, Dion, and I are both certified advisors with the Small Business Development Center, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and how The small business development centers near you can help you as you start to move towards transitioning your art into a business. So give me 1 second to share that. Okay. So if you are not already familiar, small business development centers are no cost and confidential centers all across the country, actually. We have about 38 in the state of Illinois that work with entrepreneurs and small businesses to provide resources and tools that help ensure your success. About 99% of all businesses in the country are small businesses. That's less than 500 employees and less than $5 million worth of in revenue. And so they are the backbone of our businesses and our economy. And we are here to support you as much as we can and provide you with the resources, help you find your voice, help you find your marketing strategies, institute your plan and get your financial projections together so that you know everything that you need to know to get ready to go and succeed. I've just listed here a list of all of the SBDCs in Illinois. We are located in Carbondale at the south end of the state, and we serve about a 5-county area. So there is, at the end of our slideshow, there is a link to the main website where you can find the center that's nearest you. But all of the SBDCs do a lot of the same thing and can help you in your journey. So what do? We provide one-on-one general business advice and management assistance. We have access to a lot of research and marketing tools that you might otherwise have to pay for. We can assist you with your business plan and finding financing to assist you with the development of your business. And a lot of that is just really analyzing what your costs are, how much time it takes for you to produce the work that you are doing, and helping you price it for profit. We have tools that help you with financial projections. We assist you with developing your marketing plan and strategies to help reach your target market, depending on who is most likely to buy your products. We have access to business education and training programs, and a lot of the programs that we offer are also no cost. So if you follow us or any of our centers, you'll see the types of trainings that we offer from a business perspective that may be helpful to you, whether it's from record keeping, marketing strategies, using social media. We kind of run the gamut in terms of business. We also can help you get your business registered, set up as an entity, registered with the state and federal and departments of revenue, and kind of provide you with some overview of what those are, what they mean, when you have to report, and so forth. And then we're just here to help you in any way we can, be a sounding board or someone who is an ear from a business side to help you develop your business. Now I'm going to turn it over to Aimee. She's going to talk a little bit more about the marketing and planning that you might do to take your creative business or creative artist and artistic work into a business, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Aimee. As you said, I'm Aimee Dion, and I've been doing marketing for over 20 years, working in traditional media to the new digital world. We work with clients, and when I say we, all the centers, and they are throughout the US, it's not just Illinois. We work very similar in how we do our approach when we work with a client. So we start with anybody who comes in with like an idea, right? You right now as artists, you may have started your business, or you're like, I love what I do and I want to make it a business. We want to talk with you about your idea. And it's really drilling in on the things you want to accomplish. So like Aimee said earlier, we're going to look at the feasibility of what, the project is that you want to do. Is there growth happening off a business you started? Or are we looking at you're brand new in that market and you're trying to find your footing and what's the best approach for you? So we start with that idea and we have those conversations to where we can then drill down on the planning stage. And the planning really comes down to doing research. research is really the backbone to a successful business. It's looking in the industry and the markets and just kind of seeing, one, where are you setting up your shop? Is it online? Is it a local storefront? And just kind of seeing what is trending, what's in that market, what are the gaps, what are things that you can do to kind of gain customers, that pain point, something they're missing. We call it a pain point. I hate to always say it's a pain point because, you know, it's not always like you're trying to solve a solution, but there's a need. So as people are kind of looking for things, how can you fill in that gap that somebody else isn't doing? So we're going to do that market research to hopefully then get to the goals that you set. And what we're going to do is just kind of, it's got to be measurable, and we really want to drill down on manageable steps. So as we work with small businesses, you don't have a lot of resources. You may be the only one working within your business. So how can we produce a plan for you that will help you reach your goals? Maybe you hit the next slide, Aimee. One too many.
Oh, sorry.
Should say research.
There it is.
Okay. So within the research, kind of what I was talking about is looking insights into the market. Most SBDCs, and some might have a little bit different resources, but they have access to data reports. And if that center doesn't have it, we still have resources and connections that we can reach out to help you find those reports. And it's really looking at the marketing, and it just gives you a picture of kind of what's happening in that market. What the customer behavior is. You know, COVID changed a lot of things for people. And with COVID, even though, you know, some things shut down, people changed the way they shop, the way they look at things, want to do things. And so the behavior has changed, and we can look and identify some key points for anybody who's, you know, starting that business and how it's in relation. The competitors' landscape, you know, they can see data that's in relation to the region that you're in. It's a picture. It's not going to pull up everything, but it can help you get an idea of kind of what you're looking at. So as somebody comes in, like how many, you know, like if you had a paint studio, how many exist in your region and how many beyond that region? Because you can kind of see how that growth is happening or how it's not happening. And that might give you some opportunities. We look at a lot of analysis. We look at a lot of data. If you are an establishing business, we can do audits to what you're already doing on your website, your social media, just kind of looking at what you're doing well and maybe where you can improve. Again, identifying those target markets. You really want to find the right customer that's going to spend money with you. We have a lot of people that come in here and say, I'm on social media. I keep putting up these ads. I keep, you know, putting up these posts. I'm either got a huge following, but it's not turning into revenues, or I don't have a following. So those are things we look at, because even if you have a huge following and you're not gaining any revenues, you may not have the right followers. So it's not just about those likes or that interaction. It's really about that. We look at that sales funnel. I'm kind of jumping, I guess. Aimee, go ahead and go to the next. So we look at that customer's journey, and we run it through that awareness stage, that consideration stage, to that purchase stage. So we develop a roadmap, and it's very systematic to help you think through your process. And I don't want to overwhelm you on that thought, but it's the more you can identify movement of your customer, the more you can understand how to talk to them. And so in this digital world, we're just flooded with constant messaging, and we want to be able to help you, you know, do the best for the little time you have, the little budget you have, to show that growth and reach those goals. And it's really just kind of important to identify that. I know some people think, I know my customer, they're 30 to 40, probably women, and that's great, but you really need to know how they're shopping. How are they finding the things they're looking for? What are their exact needs, and how can you be in relation to those needs? And that's really going to drive you to your success. Marketing channels, I know sometimes social media is like the point. It's the cheapest. You can get on there, you can do, you know, make your posts. But you got to understand, like, we have companies that come in and they're maybe sports related, and it's for more male customers. They're not on Facebook as much. So there's other considerations for that company. Don't get on every platform. You need to do what you can relate to, what you can handle, what you can react to as a customer service, you know, to anybody who's trying to reach you. So it's that kind of data and information that we help, your location, your hours, making sure that's current. Those are the things that sometimes as a small business, it's not that you didn't think of that, but having that outside look into your business, we can identify like, hey, I'm not sure if you knew this, but you might be missing some of this information that could really help you maybe drive that customer with, make that communication easier for that customer, because nobody really wants to spend time calling or a lot of time on a web page trying to get this information. So we're going to do the best we can to help develop that plan and that roadmap for your success. And other things to think about too that we don't have on here is looking at like networking. Networking is huge to not only find a community that helps support you. As an artist, if you just need the, not so much to say, hey, you're doing a good job, but hey, I have this issue. I'm not quite sure how to work through it. Or I want to do e-commerce and I don't know how to, like, what's the best platform? So as you get in those communities of artists, in your own hometown communities, chambers and economic developments, like there's a lot of resources there that if you just kind of go out there and start talking to people, they make great partners to help you work through your business and help you with any barriers or challenges that you may have. But that's just something I want y'all to think about, because that little tip, people are like, yeah, you network, but down here we push it really hard, and you'd be amazed how many people say, I'm glad I went because I didn't realize how much that was going to help me. Do you have the next slide, Aimee?
Yeah. So with the Apex Accelerator, I'll talk a little bit about that. It's a sister organization for us, and they work with clients who have started a business and are looking to grow their business through government contracting. So you'd be really surprised what the government will buy, and they do buy art. There's a number of programs that and bidding opportunities that you have to get your art into government buildings and various local and regional buildings and agencies that are out there. They also work with clients to get registered as a woman or minority or veteran or disabled owned business. And so they are there to help you as well in terms of providing no cost assistance and getting all of those types of registrations ready for you so that when opportunities arise, you have all of your registrations in place in order to bid on those opportunities. So some of those services, again, are kind of listed here, and I've got their Apex accelerators are a little fewer and far between than the small business development centers, but there is likely one near you, and if not, you can always work with them electronically and online. Any other additions to that, Aimee?
Just that Apex Accelerator has a lot of opportunities, but it also, you can't as a new business out the gate work with the government because you do have to have, I forget, Aimee, do you know how many years of taxes on file?
I think it's usually 2. 2,
that's what I was thinking. But it is a revenue source that often goes overlooked. And you'd be surprised. I mean, they buy, this is the line that our Apex lady likes to say, which is they buy everything from eggs to ballistic missiles. So there are opportunities there for almost any business. Now, not to say that there's an abundance of opportunity, but you know, I think a lot of people don't look there. So it's just not something to pass up, but certainly having that conversation gets the ball rolling, and it's looking into the future and how that might help you.
So our location is at the Small Business Development Center at Southern Illinois University. Our contact information is on here. You can also go to the IllinoisSBDC.com website and find a sender that is closest to you to work with you directly in developing your plan and your strategy for how you're going to roll out your business.
Yeah, and I think one thing too, when I was mentioning network, there is the SBA that has great resources. They have webinars and trainings. There is the I was gonna say, Amy, the ASBDC, we can provide these links, but they're actually the national branch. So you can go in there if you're not just in Illinois, or if you know people that are looking for help, you can go there. The other one is SCORES. SCORES is a great organization to find a mentor, and all these organizations are no cost. So the SCORES, they're always putting up webinars all the time. They're volunteers, they're people that have been out in the field, and they're sharing their information to help other businesses. So those are some of the organizations that can really give you some extra help without breaking your budget.
I think that's it for us.
So thank you so much, Amy's. Really appreciate all of that, and just such a good example of all of the amazing resources that are available to folks on this call and beyond about getting started, about finding some more support. And I love the note about connection and networking. I think that's part of why this series exists, right? To try to make sure that more folks who are early out or thinking of starting their creative venture are connected to one another, able to share those resources, share those connections, as you're talking about. We have a couple minutes now to do some Q&A. So I think what I'll do is just bring all of our panelists back. I see we have a couple questions already, but just want to make sure if anyone else has a question they're thinking about or sitting on, someone may have the same question as you. So please be brave and put it in that Q&A. I'll start with one I see. I think this is directed towards you, Robin, but you know, Ashley and our two Amy's, feel free to jump in too. The question is about just sort of the reality of balancing marketing and using social media as a creative, which often can feel and often is, in fact, a whole job in and of itself. And how do you tell what is the, I think this question is about sort of putting in the effort to make it feel worth it, make it effective without letting it take away from that creative practice. So I wonder if you can speak a little bit to that first, Robin, and we can pass and see if any of our other panelists have answers as well.
Right. Well, that is one of the most frustrating challenges, especially for people who came up before there was social media, when eventually someone would just come along and write a press release, right? And now you have years and years to promote your projects, but you have hundreds and hundreds of pictures and all this content. Now, in the art space, we don't need to follow these kind of social media, truisms like post every day, again, because we're going for these long-term results. So what I like to tell people, a lot of people might do on a Friday afternoon, an hour for email type of thing. You could do that for your social. You shoot pictures all the time in your studio and out. And then when you take a break, you go through favorites of pictures and you craft a couple of posts, right? You don't have to post immediately when you see something or when you make something in your studio. You can kind of save them up and do them all together and share them over time, right? So you're managing it, you know what I mean? You're taking it into a kind of more serious realm to consider a kind of content management, right? My pictures are here, I'm saving my texts, I'm writing them in bulk type of thing. And that becomes very important before you have a show, right? If you have so many pieces of content and you want to be planning. So I hope that answered part of it.
Yeah, that's great. Does anyone else, I don't know, Ashley, if you want to speak to that a little bit in terms of just balancing social media?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not Robin. Robin's got the sweet spot with her social media following. It's not my favorite thing in the world. However, I do have a presence there. And one of the things I teach my clients is how to block schedule, kind of speaking to what Robin is saying here. I work a lot with the rhythms and cycles of the natural world. Again, my book is called Your Spacious and Seasonal Year. And one of the workshops I have that's accessible on my website is reclaiming your time freedom and how to create your seasonal schedule. And so what I teach in that is how to create a block schedule that, again, works with the cyclical changes of the seasons, but also creates sacred time in, time on, and time off. So your time in is when right now I'm time in the business, I'm doing a presentation, right? I'm seeing a client, teaching a call, and then I have time on when I'm working on the business, and that can be blocked in specific blocks. So one of the things you could do is do that social media block that you time out, and this is like your dedicated time to do that once a week. You can get in the moment and be inspired, but that might be the time when you're prepping, planning things out. And then you have your sacred time to be working on your art. And then you have your what I like to call your time off, where you're not working, right? And I get it, as artists, we get into the creative zone, so we've got to follow that inspiration when it comes in. But having some sort of block schedule can be super useful. And yeah, ashleyburnett.co/seasonal schedule, that I think is the URL for that, but it can be really helpful to figure out how to create something that's going to support you with your creative endeavors in your business.
So one thing I'll add to that mix as well. I forgot to mention that I've been a photographer for the last 12 years. So I do own my own photography studio and am familiar with trying to balance the marketing with the doing, as well as being a part-time advisor. And so one thing I might mention is to video or record or take pictures of your progress along the way. People love to see like behind the scenes and how things are changing over time. So if you're creating something, any little behind the scenes peek into what you're doing always gathers interest from your audience and keeps people coming back, and just making time throughout your process to take a picture, take a short video, to then come back, as Ashley said, and use that block time to then do something with it. You're never going to speak to everyone, but the people that are most interested in what you're doing, they're going to latch on to that and continue to follow.
Yeah, just to echo on that too. We talked about, or you heard today about who you are, really identifying what you can provide, the passion you have behind that. So really keeping true to who you are as a person and a company, because really your brand is one of each, right? You're pulling that all together. But as you're developing that content, watch what's people seem to be, interested in, what they do seem to engage in, because that will help you also construct the right messaging going forward. So looking at that right content. So if you're new and you're getting out there, just kind of seeing what people seem to be interested in. And then again, there's analytics. I'm going to go on the business side of all this. There's analytics behind there, and kind of watching what you're capturing. Just because people don't like that post, if you look in the back of that, that you put, it's going to tell you that maybe it had 1,000 people that actually saw. You reached 1,000 people. So don't feel like I didn't get enough likes, because there's more information there than you may think.
Thanks, y'all. This is great. I see there's sort of a related question just about time and intention and balancing that with other creative pursuits while wanting to expand into sort of the marketing and social media world. And this is specifically a question about video. So we know that the algorithm on Meta, on Instagram and Facebook is often, or was at least for a time, prioritizing video content, said it was prioritizing video content. A lot of news outlets then transitioned their formats to video content. But can you all speak, anyone, to sort of this relationship between still images and video, and also just the process of learning, right? These algorithms are changing all the time. So what does it mean to try to stay up on sort of what that latest trend is? And again, this person is asking it without taking away from that time dedicated to creative practice.
So I'll just jump into this one. 2 years ago, they said, oh, you must have reels. So in August, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and then I started making my reels. They're on my Instagram profile. I've been told they're adorable. You can judge. The first one took like a week, and then I learned it. But my answer to this is, if they're good, yes, you should use reels if they're good, if they reflect your brand and your story and everything else that we talked about, because I constantly see these shaky pans across shiny paint, surfaces of oil paint. And then they add this Ken Burns effect, and you're going in and out. And I'm like, you're so specific in everything else you do, and you just put in a current Ken Burns effect and a shaky video, like I can't even see your picture type of thing. right? So if your practice has motion, spinning wheel, got a spin, potter's wheel, that's, you know, super easy motion. And we have also for everyone, we got our slow-mo, we have our time lapse. It's, you know, you can learn by practice. My advice would be to get a tripod or a light stand and a clicker, at least, right? If you're going to do it, just do that. It'll make your life so much better. Trust me. And to think what needs to be in video, right? If it doesn't need to be in video and you're getting and it's just kind of a shaky video and you're getting less engagement, you know, I mean, again, it kind of affects, you know what I mean? Then it doesn't really help you out in terms of your brand or your traffic type of thing. So the answer, yeah, they can be learned, but try and be creative and work with it type of thing, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Robin.
Can I
Uh,
also add, if you don't mind, really quickly, just pick a platform that you are familiar with or comfortable with and stick with that one. So like if you're already using Canva to develop some of your promotional slides, your flyers, your social media posts, they have tons of templates, tons of video templates as well, where you can just add in videos that you've taken, add in images that you've taken, and kind of easily create that. Just take the time to learn one. You don't have to learn them all. And then once you've created that video, you can upload it to as many platforms as you like. So use what works best for you and make it as simple and as time efficient as possible.
I agree with that too, where you just have to do, I was actually having this conversation with a client yesterday. She is like a gardening coach, supporting people with how to create their seasonal gardens and things like that. And we were talking about social media specifically and how to be more efficient on there. And Robin, I don't know if you know about this, but there's some sort of tool where like it's like the selfie stick on steroids, where it's like it can be attached to you so that they can see you doing things in real time as you're creating something. Do you know what that tool is? I'm not sure what that is. I think you wear it or something, but I don't know. I'm not sure what that is, but if I find out, I'll share it with Arts Alliance, and then we can share it with you all. But especially for creatives and artists, that way you can actually be, you know, having it happening in real time if you need to go and move over here, move over there. So because she was talking about like, I can't keep picking up my camera and having dirt all over it while I'm like moving from one location to the other. But I think it's just like, do what feels easiest to you. And yeah, sure, empower yourself, learn the new tools. But also if that feels like it's sucking your joy away, either hire someone else out to help you and do that, or don't do it. Focus on what is going to, again, bring you joy.
Yeah, I can say that video really is the top platform for getting people to engage, but absolutely, if you're not comfortable with it, don't feel like you have to do it. But there are, like Aimee was saying, there's multiple programs out there. Find one you're comfortable with. You got Canva, CapCut. If you're a Facebook user, they actually have like an academy you can go through, and they'll teach you how to do reels, and there's all these resources. So if you're in any particular platform, if you're e-commerce, look at those resources, because you'd be amazed just how much is in there. I mean, when I have clients and I know what platform they're in, and if it's something I'm not familiar with, usually if I just go on to that website, I'll find that page, those resources, and then I'll learn along with them to help them.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I think this will be our last question for the day. I see someone has asked, sort of in the vein of connection and networking, where people like to go for connecting with other artists and creatives. And I would also encourage folks, in addition to our panelists, if you all on this webinar have answers for this question, I would love to see them in the chat. But where are some of the places that you encourage folks to go meet and connect with other creatives or creative business owners?
I'll just jump in here. following organizations that you're interested in on social media is one way to find out there. And I'm in New York, and there are so many free things here, right? There's the MoMA, for example, there's such gatekeepers, but then they have free lectures. So, and then, a lot of these events in these universities always have, at least some cheese cubes, but usually good cheese, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can have a snack and chat with people. You'd be surprised. And it's all the time in universities, libraries, organizations. There's all of these events going on and panels that are totally free. So that is a great way, not just to meet up with people of similar interests, but to meet like-minded people. And I don't know if the app Seesaw is in Chicago, but I'm sure there's an app there too. And these apps tell you when the art openings are, which I guess counts as a business meetup, but it's fun and very social. So those would be my suggestions.
I agree with that. I mean, I think for me, I think there's a place for the traditional business networking events, but I've been the type of person who kind of shies away from those as much, and yet my business has been built because I get out, I make connections. So, I mean, where are my clients hanging out? They're hanging out in yoga classes. They're hanging out in, yoga studios and exactly art galleries, places like that. So I tend to, just get myself out there. I've got to get out of my home and into the world and making connections with people. And yeah, again, find the things that are going to inspire you to, have interest, whether or not you're going to meet someone, because that's not always it might be a collaborative partner, it might be a new friend. And I also love doing scheduled tea dates. If I have a connection with or feel connection with someone on social media, I might suggest, hey, I dig what you're up to. I'd love to connect. And frankly, my business has been built, that way, like a huge portion of it has been built that way, just having connection dates. So that's another way to kind of play with it.
Yeah, I would key on, where business networkings might not be the best place for you, but also keep in mind that like those are people that share workshops and other organizations and things that are going on. So even if you don't feel comfortable going into a certain, organization or group, it's always good to follow to see what they might be posting. And you might find those niches that you feel comfortable in, or, that you feel like really reflects your business and may, help you drive more awareness in your community, or just, again, networking with people that might be that mentor or can, at least be a connection. I know down here, chambers are great to just at least follow if you don't want to be in one. Looking at schools, universities are a great opportunity to see, they may bring somebody in, or the schools themselves have, workshops and that type of networking. The states, and like I said, that scores.org is really great. And there's chapters throughout the US. Our closest one is actually St. Louis, but there's people within there that, when you start talking to people, they may say, hey, I know somebody for you. So just always be open to the conversation. And even if you're not sure about the organization, just have the conversation.
One additional thing I'd add is getting yourself into rooms where you're being led. So getting to retreats, going to business building events. That's how I've built a huge portion of my business, and also in business that has continued for years and years and years, just because I, went to some business retreat or event like 8 years ago or something like that. Right. So finding the retreats, finding the things, like I host a lot of retreats. I'm hoping to do one in October in Chicago, actually. And the women that meet at those events, like, become collaborative partners and each other's clients and friends. And they're just really cool to be a part of those kind of events as well.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I think we're about at time, so I just want to give another huge thank you to our panelists. Thank you to everyone who is here today. I'm going to drop a couple links in the chat to register for tomorrow, our final day of workshops about starting a creative business, which is going to be a roundtable conversation with several creative business owners. And like I mentioned earlier, we also have a webinar series coming up about starting a creative nonprofit. That's in 2 weeks at the end of May. As several people have asked about in the chat, this is recorded and will be available shortly on the Arts Alliance YouTube page, as well as on our social media. So we'd love to have you back at a future event or webinar, and we wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much again to our panelists and to our wonderful interpreters.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for having us.